The intervention of courts in Nigeria's democracy is becoming a source of concern to stakeholders, especially as the country moves closer to the 2023 elections. From Port Harcourt to Kebbi and then Calabar, as seen in the past few days in the People's Democratic Party, as well as events leading up to the Anambra gubernatorial elections, stakeholders are worried that the trend signposts possible dangers ahead, even as they rebuke members of the judiciary for making themselves readily available for the dirty biddings of politicians. The courts, many well-meaning Nigerians are worried, might have become a marketplace for politicians to buy injunctions and ex parte orders. And at the rate things are going, it may be difficult to draw the line that the judges will not cross just to do the bidding of politicians. You know, there was a cartoon over the weekend that showed a judge and a couple of politicians hovering around him, and the judge kept on shouting, "Injunctions for sale, injunctions for sale, come and buy your injunctions."
That was real gallows humor, wasn't it? And the thing with those cartoons, an image speaks 1,000 words. It just got it spot on. This is exactly what we're seeing. It's making a total farce of the judicial system. And it calls to mind, well, to my mind, an article by Ikepo Braithwaite earlier this month, why politicians prefer to sort of take their chances at election tribunals rather than electronic voting. The reason is obvious. They can control, they can manipulate the judiciary. And this is just such a smear on judges and the judiciary. And I really appreciate the fact that that cartoon was drawn and published. And you raising this topic this morning, it's extremely important that we call out the judiciary. I personally am not going to place the burden or the onus on politicians who are manipulating the judiciary. We all know about the political class and we do not expect much. No offense to the present company, of course. But the responsibility is for the judiciary to maintain their own integrity, or what is left of it, quite frankly. I place the fault firmly in the lap of our judiciary. It's disgraceful.
Dr. Bati?
Okay, well, yes, I agree with you. The problem is with the granting of ex parte orders. The problem is with forum shopping by politicians who manipulate the judicial process and try to compromise the integrity of the judiciary. You are absolutely right in putting the blame on the judiciary, and this is not new. As far back as 1985, Justice Mohammed Bello, at the 1985 All Nigerian Judges Conference, raised the concern about the abuse of ex parte injunctions. And he said, look, that would create a situation whereby the judiciary itself would throw away its own integrity. What's an ex parte order? An ex parte order is granted without the court serving processes on the other party. In other words, the other party is not available to defend itself immediately. And hence, it more or less puts a question on that principle, or the alteram pattern. That is, thou must hear the other side. And when it is granted, it can only be granted in a situation of an emergency, in a situation of real urgency, whereby the rights of the persons, or the person making the application, will be endangered, and hence the court will try to protect that person, pending when the matter is taken up. So, and it's part of the civil law procedure in Nigeria. But the problem is that judges have been abusing this for more than decades. And every chief judge of the Federal High Court, every Supreme Court, every chief justice of the Federation had always raised this concern about the abuse of ex parte orders. And what you found, even as recently as 2018, the then chief judge of the Federal High Court, I think it was Justice Kafayati, in fact instructed Federal High Court judges that nobody should grant ex parte orders, because by then it had become very clear that this was being abused. And it was inevitable that judges, once they get involved directly in the affairs of political parties, will ridicule themselves, will ridicule the bench on which they sit. And this is what we have seen in part in this PDP crisis. A court in Rivers, gives grants an ex parte order. Then the affected party quickly rushes to Kebbi, hundreds of miles away and get another injunction from Kebbi. And then, okay, since he got that injunction and it will grant him certain release, the original parties quickly rushed to a high court in Cross River and also got another injunction. 3 different courts of coordinate jurisdiction just giving out injunctions as if, they were donating biscuits to litigants. So that makes it really ugly. And of course, I imagine that before 2023, the Chief Justice of Nigeria will again make the usual noises about how the abuse of ex parte orders, and the granting of injunctions, would discredit the judiciary. So those who have been blaming the judiciary have no problem with that, because judges are supposed to be above board, like Caesar's wife. They are not supposed to descend into the arena, because once they descend into the arena, they would embarrass themselves. Now, lawyers are also part of the problem. The lawyers who know that there's already an order that has been granted by a court, and they go to a court of equal jurisdiction in another place. Is it that they don't know their law? Is it that they did not study the details of the original order that was granted? Why did they not go to an appellate court? Okay, but some people will argue, well, this is where we are in Nigeria. You can go to any court. You can run from Kebbi to Calabar to go and get whatever injunction. But it doesn't make lawyers look good. It doesn't make the judges look good. So what is the solution? Is it to remove ex parte injunctions from the civil law procedure? Well, I don't think that would be the solution. Maybe perhaps these judges need to be better sensitized. Some of these judges who grant these ex parte orders, they probably will say they are doing something that is within their purview. Maybe lawyers who forum shop, jumping from Calabar to to Maiduguri to go and get an injunction. Maybe there should be a system in place also to sanction them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't look good. In the past, some students who failed in final exams, they went to court and obtained ex parte order to stop university convocation. And they were granted. Students who failed, they didn't want those who passed to have a convocation. PACN in those days wanted to connect one power station. Some agri persons went to of the community fighting over land. They went and got ex parte order to stop the commissioning of the power plant. So these are some of the problems that this abuse of injunctions presents us with. And I think that the judiciary and the NBA and the various institutions must ensure that they do not become politicians, because that's like becoming politicians and granting injunctions to any over-enthusiastic and desperate politician.
I mean, the way we are going, I'm just being cheeky this morning, we might still have a stock exchange for injunction prices all over the country. So what's the price of injunction in your state? Probably. I think that's another one in Nigeria.
I don't want to talk about price because I have no proof.
Okay.
Judges themselves may just misbehave.
Okay.
Yes.
It's all right. That's all of these headlines. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Rotus, Michael, and Aaron to give us updates on Africa global business and what Nigerians across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rotus Adiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. Welcome to a new week. We begin with the Central Bank of Nigeria releasing draft guidelines for the digital naira, and these draft guidelines are for the banks. They want the banks to promote the digital naira, inform everyone about the features, its legal tender, non-interest bearing, supposed to promote financial inclusion. There's 5 features, of course. The monetary authority, which is the central bank that will be monitoring cybersecurity perspective, making sure that all transactions go well. NIBS is involved, Nigeria Interbank Settlement System. Second feature is the federal government itself that will be collecting payments for passport applications and things like that from different agencies. Third feature is merchants who are going to be doing business, on their end and collecting payments for their businesses. And then also another feature is going to be the end users, you and I, who have a wallet. There's supposed to be a wallet that the central bank will be releasing for this, but it's a stopgap until the financial institutions have their own wallets. We actually have on the Global Business Report later today at 11:30, Dr. Hassan Mahmood, who is the Director of Monetary Policy at the central bank. He's going to be talking to us about that, so very much looking forward to discussing that with him. We move from the e-Naira to the NNPC, the trust deficits and government-owned enterprises. We know, of course, about the declaration of 287 billion naira in profits from the NNPC. However, I don't know if you guys were on WhatsApp and a whole bunch of other platforms this weekend, but there's just been a whole bunch of things flying around with regards to how, of course, the NNPC came around to declaring those profits. In fact, none other than Atedo Peterside put out a statement on yesterday, on Sunday, saying that there's an allegation out there that the federal, it's really sunny, I might need a Atedo Peterside's hat. He put out a statement saying that there's an allegation that the NNPC is diverting dividends from the federation accounts, in order to pop up its profits. So he said, and in the statement, in the tweets, he said, look, NNPC has to put out these audited accounts and let Nigerians know exactly how they came about these profits in order to put this allegation to the side. So, look, I said it last week that we want to see the audited accounts. There's two sides to this. One side says, why would you declare profits before your audited account comes out? But then the other side says, hey, look, Mele Kyari has done his best to push transparency with the NNPC. They hadn't been releasing accounts for years. He came through, they've released their audited accounts for 2018, 800 billion naira loss, released their audited accounts for 2019, 1.7 billion naira loss, and then he telegraphed that these profits will be here. So we'll see. When the audited accounts come out, we'll see what those numbers stay. Still on Atedo Peterside, this is on a fashion tip. I saw the movie The Protégé over the weekend. It stars Maggie Q, which is a female-led action movie, and we need more female-led action movies. But it also stars Samuel L. Jackson in the film. And if you take a look at his attire, look at this. Now, mind you, I saw the movie on Saturday, and Atedo Peterside's statement on NNPC came out on Sunday. Look at the similarities. Interesting enough, the costume directors are European. They're not African. So maybe it was Samuel L. Jackson's personal choice to dress up as a South Nigerian. I thought that was very interesting there. We move from fashion and African attire in Hollywood to Zambia. The statistics agency in Zambia released inflation figures for August. But before they did, there is on your screen a congratulatory message to President Hakainde Hichilema, which I thought was very interesting. Why would a statistics agency be putting out a note of congratulations? You're supposed to just release your stats and tell us how the economy is doing. But they said, they wish him well and that God should guide him as he guides Zambia going forward. And I just thought that was really interesting. But anyway, Zambia's inflation, that's what they're supposed to be doing, telling us about the inflation. It decelerated a bit to 24.4% in August. You see this chart of accelerated inflation in Zambia. It decelerated based on non-food items, which went from 17.3 in July to about 16.1 in August. Food inflation still crept up. So food inflation in Zambia, 31.6% from 31.2 in August. Around Africa, wherever you go, food inflation is so elevated. But Zambia has one of the highest levels in Africa. And finally, South Africa. Tiger Brands, which is a food and beverage company, they've exited Nigeria by selling their minority stake in food company UAC Foods, which is a subsidiary of the conglomerate UAC Nigeria. They bought a minority stake back in 2011. There was an arrangement where Tiger Brands was supposed to manufacture and distribute gala sausages, swan water, and so on. And then, of course, 2012, there was that Dangote Flour Mills acquisition of a majority stake of 67%, which cost them $200 million. Years later, they ended up selling it back for like $1 or something. So Tiger Brands, they've been licking their wounds, and now they have exited by selling the minority stake back to the holdco, back to UAC Foods. So it was announced to the stock exchange on Friday. That is our African business update.
I mean, that's quite... I don't know the reaction to give. When companies come in and they invest in Nigerian businesses and they have to sell back in a while, I mean, that shows a lot. That shows a lot about the environment, and we should work on that. It should be an economy that encourages a lot of companies to come in and invest and stay for the long haul and even multiply their investments. So somebody will have thought that with that investment, Tiger Brands will stay on and they will be able to eat the good of the land, because the land is good. We just need to harness the resource necessary, for everything coming to pay. I mean, concerning Zambia, I'm not happy, that the state agency is congratulating the president first. That's part of the hypocrisy we talk about in Africa. Deal with the stats. Congratulating a man for what? You've got 24% inflation rate. You've defaulted on your debts. Zambia is in a quagmire. The Chinese are almost taking over the country. You don't have a lot of foreign direct investment. Most of them probably Chinese. You are in dire straits economically. Zambia is not a good case. It's a basket case. Then you're congratulating. Congratulating for what? The man should hit the job running. And in fact, the president, if he's wise, Sichelima should come out and say, people, stop congratulating me. Let me just get my job done. And really, we need to face the work and not the niceties. And concerning the e-Naira, fingers crossed, looking forward to that. Very disruptive. Let's see how that pans out. But I'll say long overdue, bullish about it. Kudos to the CBN. Let's get it done.
I think it's a great idea as well, the e-Naira. With Zambia, it's typical sycophancy. We're not surprised. If I'm going to be charitable, I might say that they're also just that pleased to see the back of Edgar Lunga, like I guess most of Zambia is, because otherwise I don't understand it. As for Tiger Brand, I actually recall Woolworths, when they exited Nigeria after all of like 2 years, there was a statement which I found to be such an indictment of Nigeria. All our other 59 stores across 11 African countries will remain open. And I just thought, so Nigeria has been singled out as the one place that it's impossible to do business in. They complained then about supply chain issues, rents, pricing, and all kinds of, real problems with doing business in Nigeria. And I think everybody should really take careful note of this sort of mass exodus, not only of Nigerians out of here, but of, foreign businesses. It's unfortunate.
Well, I guess with regard to Tiger Brands, businesses will go to where they can get the best returns on investment. If your ROI is not looking good enough, then of course it means that that investment does not make sense. You refer to ShopRite. ShopRite left Nigeria in April 2021. And the example of ShopRite explains it. ShopRite has since gone ahead to shut down its businesses in Zambia, in Tanzania, in Kenya, just to withdraw from the business. And now you have Tiger Brands that probably had great hopes about investing in Nigeria. And then, I've not seen a statement that they themselves have issued to explain why they are pulling out and pulling back. But of course, this is not very positive news in terms of the efforts that have been made by the present administration to promote the ease of doing business and to encourage, investment from outside. Now, you mentioned the e-Naira. Yes, the CBN has been talking about the e-Naira, which will be a currency. It's an alternative. It's not going to replace what is on the ground. And the whole idea is for it to promote financial inclusion and to even provide opportunities for people who don't even have a bank account. The first tier of it is for persons who don't have bank accounts. But what I don't understand with regard to people who don't have bank accounts is that, yes, you can't do transaction that is more than 50,000. And that on a day, you must have a minimum of about, 100,000 naira. For merchants, those in the merchant suit, you will need up to about, 2 million naira, but you can do transaction for about 1 million. But I think that the CBN and the banks need to give us more information, because we can hear about this. Yes, it's attractive, but what are the details? How do the retail customers who are in the 5th category, how do they engage with this? What the CBN has introduced is what it calls the speed wallet, which is a temporary intervention measure. The banks themselves will come up with their own wallets, but massive public information is important. What I find reassuring for now is the indication that personal information details will be saved and that privacy and security measures will be taken so that they don't put your personal information out there on the ledger and then anybody can have access to it. That in itself is reassuring, but we need to know more details. You refer to NNPC. Yes, although we have it on good authority that the NNPC would provide the details of the audited accounts before the end of this week. And I hope that they do so, that they follow the directive that has been given by the president. And when we see those audited accounts, what we'll be looking out for is whether there are qualified comments by the auditors. What is exactly the opinion of the auditors with regard to this report? Everybody has been quoting 44 years, the best since 44 years, but actually the date is actually 43 years, as was indicated in the introduction that we read earlier. And all of those questions about, is this because NNPC will go through a transition? And is this the question raised by Atedo Peter's side, a question of NNPC dipping his fingers into the cookie jar, into the revenue of independent entities like the Nigerian LNG, and money that should have gone directly to the Federation account is now being put in the NNPC account. We need to know all of this. But the bigger question, I don't know whether you have an answer for that, is it possible for an entity that has been losing money, that is running loss-making refineries, that had issues with production? We produce 1.56 million barrels per day on the average in the fourth quarter of 2020. Is it possible to make profit with all of that? And with the pressure of COVID-19 and issues with demand and supply, within the international oil market. These are some of the gray areas that Nigerians are concerned about. But we're jubilating, we're celebrating it. Let's just hope that when those audited accounts come out and they are published, that those who are gifted in analyzing numbers will not tear it apart.
Well, I thought Samuel L. Jackson said he was from Gabon. I thought they'd done some investigation. He should have a rethink and be Nigerian. That attire suits him. Well, thank you, Reuters. Moving on to more business updates, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Very good morning to you. First of all, just recapping on Friday, basically, the market's still digesting what Jerome Powell had to say. His much approached speech, much waited for speech on Friday at the Jackson Hole Symposium didn't give a great deal away. The main thing is there's a lot of ground to cover, he said, before rates will be going up. But he did, so that's nothing there. But there are more clues about, very, very vague clues about tightening and so on, and getting rid of quantitative easing, which will gradually be tapered, but it will take some time. So on to what's been happening today as far as the market's concerned in Asia Pacific. Just a little advance basically for the Nikkei and so on. We're into a week of heavy numbers basically as far as Asia Pacific's concerned. Nothing today and so on. The MSCI's broadest index of Asia Pacific shares shows them up about 0.5%. But as I say, big week coming up for PMI data, particularly coming out of the region. Do we think that China is going to crack down a little bit more? Yes, we do. Chinese authorities, as you know, have had a slew of legislation over the past month and so on. It began with ants and all that stuff we've discussed many times before. But now, basically, investors are saying something quite interesting to themselves, as I understand it. What they're saying is, look, we know where the crackdown's going to happen. It's with data-rich companies and so on. Is there a way to invest in that? And there probably is. So a bit of interest from investors. But I would point out, though, that the Invesco Golden Dragon Index for China, which is an ETF, basically, you can actually trade in it if you want to, is down about a quarter, about 26%. Down about a quarter because of the increased regulatory pressure. So to the United States then, and once again, stock markets in good shape, basically, liking what they took to be a dovish comment, basically, from Jerome Powell, and basically futures. Not too bad, actually. But again, I think the strongest thing from what Jay Powell actually said, and we can talk about this should you wish, is that interest rate rises in the United States are still a long way down the track. The central bank is in no rush to do anything about that. As far as the EU is concerned, we've got important elections coming up in September. As you know, in Germany, which will be quite crucial. But we talk about those slightly later on, I think, maybe in the week or early in the month as it begins. But as far as you can tell from anecdotal things about people going on holiday and spending money in bars and restaurants and so on, the EU economic recovery appears to be relatively on track. No big worries, particularly about COVID-19. I think, though, the Delta variant will find its way through the continent. There may be more worries about that eventually. As far as commodities are concerned, well, Hurricane Ida is wreaking havoc, of course. You will have read about this in the more general news. In Florida, this is the hurricane season, so that's cut about 91% of Gulf of Mexico production there. But OPEC Plus meets on Wednesday, so they will have more to say about the price of oil. As far as gold's concerned, well, given the relatively dovish statement about interest rates, it's got a bit more of its shine back to it. So I mentioned a big week for numbers, particularly in the United States. So it's the non-farm payrolls in the United States coming up on Thursday stroke Friday. Weeklies on Thursday, big ones on Friday. We'll get flash inflation figures, in other words, unadjusted inflation figures from the EU this week as well, which will add or not to the case of whether their economies are actually going. And we get more business surveys out from the United States as well. So that's really your global view. Looking forward to a week of big numbers coming up.
Okay. Real quickly, Michael, what will be the outlook when OPEC meets? Because we all know anytime we have a disaster in and around the Gulf of Mexico, it really impacts oil prices, and it takes time for things to trickle out. When you look at that vis-a-vis the recovery the world is trying to get now amidst COVID-19, I mean, what will be the outlook? And concerning Jackson Hole, in the part of my mind, I expected Jay Powell to come out and tell the truth. And he told the truth that, you see, those stimuluses can't continue. We'll have to reduce them. I mean, and that's what he said there. You know, we will reduce them, we'll bring them down. The tapering will continue. I can't give you a timeline to it, but it shows that at some point very soon, then it might have to have that conversation about interest rates. So what's your take on that?
My take is, as I said, that basically interest rates appear a long way off. Tapering will have to start taking place, but it'll be tapering first and then interest rates may be rising after that. As far as telling the truth is concerned, I mean, who am I to say whether central bankers actually tell the truth about anything? They don't want to upset the markets. They never actually, they're firm in what they believe. They just hint with a nudge and a twist and so on. But I think what we can take from what he said on Friday is that interest rate rises rather, are much further down the line than the tightening of QE. Could begin as early as next month, the tightening of quantitative easing in the United States. It might not. It might wait till the end of the year. All we do know, the fixed thing is, as well as interest rates being a little bit further off, is that the other pillar of his calculations and central bank calculations is about employment, and we don't know what that is. As I said, we'll be getting big numbers to see how the United States fared in August at the end of the week as far as jobs are concerned. As far as OPEC Plus is concerned, well, as you say, I mean, the hurricane season happens, doesn't it? Every year we have a hurricane season in the Gulf of Mexico. Everybody knows about it. It happens every year. I think OPEC Plus will be looking through that, quite honestly. I mean, what's going to be interesting about the meeting is not so much what their production levels are predicted to be, but what they feel about growth throughout the world. That will be the important takeaway, and I look forward to that. That's in Vienna on Wednesday.
Well, Michael, let me talk about Business Secretary Kwarteng. Mr. Kwarteng is taking a different position from the businesses in logistics and the food chain in the United Kingdom. They say there is a shortage of drivers. Even the Haulage Association says that there is a shortage of over 100,000 drivers. And they think that, you know, this could have the effect on food prices because they've been having to increase the wages of the few drivers available. And they want a skilled workers visa to be extended to drivers from abroad, and also for the drivers to be placed on the shortage, employees list. But the business secretary says no, that whoever wants to recruit should recruit from inside the United Kingdom. What do you think is likely to happen in the long run? And is this a fallout of the UK exiting, the European Union? And what really is Mr. Kwarteng's position? Is this just, let me use a very mild word, nationalism. And as for Hurricane Ida, what effect is it likely to have on the U.S. economy? In the interim, oil prices have gone up. Brent crude is about $71.8. WTI is about $68. I guess all of that will be of interest to OPEC Plus when they meet tomorrow. But in terms of the U.S. economy itself, with the shutting down of so many facilities, is this likely to have an effect on Q3 economic performance, GDP growth in the United States?
Well, as far as the hurricane's concerned, as I said, it happens every year. That season is called the hurricane season, as you know. It happens every year, and it will have a temporary effect. But I think that the supplies of oil and what's actually floating around in tankers at the moment will probably take care of that. I'm not expecting OPEC to take a huge amount of, even though it is temporary in its effect. I think they will look through that, much more interested in what OPEC says about long-term growth in the world. I think that'll be the most important thing and the most important take from their meeting on Wednesday. As far as the UK is concerned, yes, we have this bizarre situation where lorry drivers, for example, for one particular company, are getting paid more than the executives are getting paid because there's a shortage of them. I think, for what it's worth, the business secretary is wrong. It takes 9 months to train a long-distance lorry driver, and I don't see many people actually surging towards wanting to be lorry driver. It's not a very nice job. It's 10 to 12 hours at a stretch, maybe sleeping in your cab, maybe using the facilities at service stations and garages to wash and so on. You know, it's not a very pleasant job. I think that the business secretary is wrong. I don't think there is the growth in the economy to look after that. I think that we do need to shift our idea about putting some of those lorry driver immigrants on the skilled immigrant list and have them coming back to work in the country. I think it's inevitable that food prices will rise. I don't think it'll be huge because we haven't seen the sort of cost cutting and we haven't seen the sort of things that supermarkets get up to when they're trying to keep prices down. There's a lot of that to come. But I can tell you from my own shopping experiences that shelves are beginning to be a little empty here and there. And the usual gripe is you're getting from shelves and shops and so on is it's not my fault. It's the lorry driver shortage. So it's becoming a crisis. No question about that.
Well, by the way, Michael, I mean, we have many skilled drivers here in Nigeria who would not mind coming over to the UK as skilled drivers with skilled workers visa. Mm-hmm. So I hope the business secretary will listen to Logistics UK and the Haulage Association and reconsider his position.
Yes, especially very skilled tanker drivers here. Very skilled, Dr. Bassett.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it.